What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another predictions video, but today we are here with something a little bit different. Y'all seen the title. Today, we are going to be predicting the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. I thought about doing each round in today's video, but I thought that might be a little bit too much for a singular video, and we can continue to bring this back if you enjoy this for each round of the playoffs. But I was thinking to myself last night, man, the season has just gone by too darn fast. It flies by too fast, and it takes too long in the offseason. So I just want to embrace this moment that we still have football to watch. We already have so many teams that are eliminated that we won't get to see again this year that I thought we want to really enjoy this moment. The best way for me to do that is by making some predictions, because then I have a poll in the game. I feel like I have a real rooting interest, and it just adds an extra element, which is pretty fun. I also did, before the season, kind of predict who is going to represent the AFC and the NFC in the championship games and the Super Bowl. And just a disclaimer, that doesn't affect today's picks, but I did have the Houston Texans representing the AFC. I, of course, had the Lions representing the NFC against Philadelphia in the NFC championship game. If you want to go back on that video, some things were kind of accurate, it feels like. Some things were way off. But with all that being said, let's waste no more time. I'll try to keep this to a shorter video length. We're going to dive right into it. Here are my picks for the wild card round. Off on the AFC side of things, and we're going to start off at the bottom right here with Denver, Buffalo. This isn't, I don't think, the biggest spread. I think Pittsburgh, Baltimore is, but this would be a major upset. Bo Nix on the road in Buffalo. That alone probably gets most people to be like, yep, not making that choice. And Buffalo has looked outstanding. They have a lot of big wins so far this season. Obviously, they beat our Lions. I'm actually going to go with probably the biggest upset that I have here today, and I'm going to take Denver to knock off Buffalo in this game. Yeah, I don't feel great about this happening, but, you know, it's a matchups league, and I just try to find matchups that I think I can buy into, and I think there's a few that I can buy into here with Denver. I'm not taking much from the Kansas City game. Yes, they handled business, and Bo Nix was completing like every pass, but so many of those throws were easy throws, underneath screens. It was a lot of things that were very controlled offensively, and then defensively, I didn't feel like Kansas City had many answers with where they were at. Obviously, they had Carson Wentz playing, and it didn't seem like Kansas City could really stop the run without having Chris Jones, so I'm not taking much from that game. But what I am taking is what Denver has done all season long. And obviously, defensively, they've been very good. They've created a lot of pass rush. But I don't think it's just about pass rush when you play a team like Buffalo, because so much of it is when the play breaks down, when you have to plaster late in the play, are you disciplined in that sense? And I think that Denver has shown that they look like a pretty disciplined team in the back end. Obviously, they have the cornerback position, which I really trust when a play does break down. Pat Surtain being the first guy that you circle there. I know they can get after the quarterback. And on the season, been a really good run defense. 3.9 yards per carry, less than 100 yards per game. Second in expected points added against the run. I think that's where it's going to start. It's going to start with stopping James Cook. Second level will be attacked in this one. Tight ends, running backs, that's such a big part of this Buffalo Bills offense. But that being said, on the season, Denver's only allowed 17.3 yards per game, two quarterbacks rushing at 4.4 yards per carry. Two tight ends, while it's not fantastic here, it actually concerns me a little bit. A little over 5.5 receptions per game, 47 yards per game. It's not a great matchup on paper. And where Denver, to me, still can get an edge is making them a drop-back passing team. I still don't trust Buffalo much at all as a pure drop-back passing team. Situationally, their efficiency drops big time, like completion percentage on, say, third downs. They just have that big playability where they can kind of bail themselves out at times. So handling Josh, of course, is everything. But also, to me, it comes back to the run. DJ Jones, how do these guys on the interior actually play the run against James Cook? That's going to be everything. But if you make them be a drop-back passing team, I think Denver has the edge. I'm going to buy into that. They're going to get cooked a couple times. They're going to have to put up some points. But I'll tell you what, I don't love Buffalo's defense. I don't love it. And I do think that this is a game where you can be a little bit more on schedule than maybe other matchups. Denver-Buffalo game. I don't feel great about this one, but you knew there was going to be an upset in here. Give me the Broncos pulling the upset, 7-2. All right, let's continue. We got Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and this is not the spot that I'm going to pick the upset. Just lay it out there. I'm taking Baltimore. A lot of this season, I've been down on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I didn't believe into them a ton coming into the year, and they got the hot start. I didn't believe into it, and then I was like, you know what? Pittsburgh actually might be that kind of team. And then the last few weeks have been like, okay, maybe they're not that kind of team. And we'll see. Maybe there's some Justin Fields usage that makes this thing really interesting. Look, this should be competitive because it always seems like it's competitive between these two teams, and if there's turnovers, like just a couple turnovers is going to swing this game. That's the puncher's chance Pittsburgh has. I mean, you get two turnovers in this game, they actually might go win this, but I just don't think that in general they can keep up. Now, they don't have Zay Flowers, which I think is massive because weapons-wise, I don't really like their receiving core. I think Rashad Bateman's really impressed me this season. He's been a lot better than I expected, but I don't really like their receiving core, if I'm being honest, and I do like the back end for Pittsburgh. I just still don't buy into the fact that they can score enough points in a game like this. I think that Baltimore can still put up 20, 24 points, and I don't know that I trust Pittsburgh to hit 20 points matchups in a game like this. So I'm going to roll with Baltimore. I think it's close without Zay Flowers. I just don't trust them to put up enough points in this game. And maybe Justin Tucker has to knock through a big field goal. Maybe that's a swing in this one. But to the final wild card game in the AFC, and I'm fired up for this one. Chargers, Houston. It's crazy. Houston's the 4th seed. It feels like they've looked terrible all year. They've actually won more games this year than last year. It's nuts. And I'm definitely straight up, like, I want to root for Jim Harbaugh in this game. All right, I'm a big, Michigan fan. Jim Harbaugh, love that dude. Definitely pulling for them. I would love to see them win this game. But again, I go back to matchups, and I think this is one of the best secondaries in football. Stingley's been awesome all season long, and I think that this is one of the more difficult defenses. Now, the problem they have is they haven't played complementary football. Their passing offense has been very like, hey, big play or nothing. That's a problem. They haven't been complementary. I think that leads to problems, and that's kind of the opposite because the LA Chargers are a complementary team that has had a lot more efficiency because they passed the ball in earlier downs, and Justin Herbert doesn't turn the football over. So it feels like you're playing a boom or bust team and a team that's the complete opposite of that in the Chargers, and you probably lean towards the consistency side. But I buy into that Texans back end. I buy into what they have in the secondary. I think that they can make it difficult to find consistency when you talk about throwing the ball for Herbert in this game, and I do buy into that run defense can absolutely fly around, and if that's their focus, they can take it away and live on islands on the outside against that receiving corps. Obviously, the concern on the flip side is can they pass protect for CJ Stroud at all against this pass rush for the Chargers? And yeah, I'll admit that's a concern. I don't know where the points are going to come from here, but with an explosive offense, it may only take 2 plays if the Chargers aren't rolling. So I'm going to take the Houston Texans. I guess this is probably considered an upset as well on the season, but we're going to roll for it. Give me the Houston Texans to win at home and move on to the divisional round. And that win would probably shock people. That might shock some people more than the Buffalo one, just because nobody seems to have any belief in Houston right now, and I don't have a ton of belief either. Move on to the NFC side here, and we're going to start off at the bottom left. We have Green Bay, Philadelphia, and man, I was heated with how Green Bay played against Minnesota second time around. It's fired up because I heard all about how Green Bay was going to, Green Bay, hey, that team's scary. And then I saw that Minnesota game, like it looks like the first time you played this team. That being said, though, I do think that the spread being as tight as it is for a valid reason. I do think that this game could be very interesting between these two teams because, look, man, there's things that are real concerns with Philly. It's not even just the injuries fact for me. It's the fact that when you look at how Green Bay plays, their inverted coverage. I mean, they've had a pretty tricky secondary. I always buy into what they can do in the back end. They can absolutely take the ball away even without Jair Alexander. Evan Williams back at safety. You put Bullard in the nickel, and that's a pretty tough back end that they have. Their defensive front hasn't been consistent enough against great offensive lines for me to completely buy into that, which is one of my bigger concerns. But Edgerrin Cooper has been an animal over the last few weeks, and if there's a guy that can make some big plays against Saquon, it's probably that piece because he did the same thing against Aaron Jones. So I think there's reasons to believe that this Packers defense, at very least, is going to take the ball away a couple times. Jalen Hurts has struggled this season against 2 deep coverage, and Green Bay has kind of leaned into that. The question off it can they stop the run? And Edgerrin Cooper will have to do a lot there because I don't like the matchups up front really at all here for Green Bay. Then on the flip side for Green Bay, it really stinks not having Christian Watson, and this is one of the better secondaries in the way that they perform, one of the better defenses this season in Philadelphia. Not having Christian Watson, I think, is huge for a matchup like this because I know that Green Bay can find efficiency going underneath and getting the ball out quickly, and they're going to lean on Josh Jacobs. They're going to not throw the ball as often with Jordan Love, and that's how they get things rolling. So if you start to stop the run, can they find the quick passing attack? They have the guys. Tucker Kraft's been phenomenal when they've just let him roll, and the times this season where Green Bay has seemingly just been like, get the ball out of our hands. Let's just have consistency. Let's just go forward. I've really bought into, like, that's a tough offense. The problem is I don't believe that's who they are. I don't believe that's how they'll play consistently, and I think that they're too aggressive at times, to be honest with you. And I think without Christian Watson, I don't think they have that piece. So I think they have to get away from that a little bit in this game to give themselves a shot. But if Philadelphia goes out there, they're running the ball, the clock's getting eaten away, and they're looking for those big plays, I think they're going to fall into big trouble here. It was a fun game last time around. I recently had watched it back. So I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles. I understand where, depending on how this game goes early, you could buy into Green Bay pulling the upset, and it honestly wouldn't surprise me. But as of now, I just don't buy into Green Bay's going to play the game necessary to beat this team. So I'm going to take the Eagles. We got Washington, Tampa. Washington on the road. They felt like at times this year one of the more dangerous teams with a young quarterback that's so mobile as he is. Like, what is this going to be? Then they add Lattimore to the mix. Their defense has looked so much better this season, and man, I feel for these Washington fans. Like, I'm super happy for them because a year ago I was watching so many, like, for whatever reason I was listening to, like, Washington radio stations and stuff talk about their team, and it was like, man, what's wrong with this team? And it was a mess with Sam Howell, the amount of interceptions that some people believed in him, some didn't. It was a mess last year, so I'm happy that they've seemingly found their answer here. And for this game, I actually like Washington to win this football game. The problem with Tampa Bay is I think you kind of know what you have to deal with right away. Like, the inside of their defense is going to be tough. Vita Vea is going to be difficult. You're going to have to try to string things out a little bit. They're going to make you play that style. I still believe in Todd Bowles and what he can do defensively. And I think against a young quarterback, you want to believe on paper that that could be a good matchup for him. But if I'm being honest, I think they may struggle a little bit with the mobility of the quarterback here. I think that could be a problem. I think the success that you see out wide actually doesn't play great for them. I think the best benefit for Tampa Bay defensively is probably the cornerback position, because outside of Scary Terry, like, where are they going to find answers consistently in this game? I'm not sure. Maybe the tight end spot. So I think that they have some good matchups in the back end. They have an ability to lean into pretty heavy man coverage and kind of just plaster things in the back end and just make it tough to find easier answers for Jaden Daniels, which could throw him off rhythm very early in this game. But overall, I think they're going to struggle a little bit with the mobility here. We'll see if that's the case. They got to be able to create some pressure, and they're above average in that area, but they also blitz at the 5th most amount. Now, that could get them into trouble blitzing too much, because this offensive line for Tampa Bay has played well, but then again, so has Washington's O-line. Just throw that out there. Their offensive line has been probably better than expected. They're pretty well-rounded. I wouldn't say they're elite, but they're well-rounded. It's just, can they create some pressure against Baker Mayfield, and can they limit the broken plays that Baker constantly can create? Because if you watch Baker against New Orleans just can't create pressure, and it just becomes a nightmare for that defense. However, and we know how much Bucky Irving has done the sideline to sideline work, they're going to make you work, and Bucky Irving has added just that other element to this offense, which makes him so dangerous. But I think Washington, the way that they played defensively this year, I actually buy into the fact that they are going to handle some of those challenges a little bit better, and I think Washington might find a way to go get this win. So I'm going to take the Commanders. That's where I'm at right now. That's probably the most difficult pick I feel like I had to make. Like, yeah, I could be wrong on a lot of these other ones, but I actually felt it was really difficult to pick a side, but I ended up going with Washington. We'll see how that plays out. And then finally, we have Minnesota at LA, and I'm going to be honest, I feel probably the best about this pick. Like, these are all pretty tough. I feel really good about this one. I'm going to take Minnesota to win this game. Look, last time Sam Darnold played this team, was he 17 of 22, 2 touchdowns? I mean, look, there was some messiness in this game for sure. My problem is this: I don't think LA can play in the back end the style that's going to make Sam Darnold look like he did against the Lions. I don't think they could play that way in the back end. I don't think they have the personnel for that. I do think that their coverage type is a little bit difficult to deal with because of all their match coverage and the way that they don't just give you windows, which Sam Darnold has cooked this season. I just think that after playing a game like that for Darnold, if anything, it could help in the sense of like, yo, just trust your guys to go win one-on-one. And I do think that there's a little bit more straightforwardness with it, though they're going to be matching guys up in the back end. So they're going to just have to win. And typically I would trust the Minnesota receiving corps to find ways to win. The biggest problem for Minnesota will simply be, how is that offensive line going to pass protect? Like, that could be a mess. And if you get Darnold that's hesitant against that defensive front, this thing could become a disaster. You could absolutely get some strip sacks there, and they're going to try to lean on Aaron Jones, I'm sure, and take the ball out of his hands more often than not. You could argue that the weapons, again, for LA is better than what they have in the back end in Minnesota, and I would buy into that. But then it's Kyren Williams, and so much efficiency has come through Kyren Williams, and I just wonder, like, where's that run game success going to happen on the interior, which Minnesota will typically kind of allow you that access. What's tricky about this, and this is where I'm kind of weird on this one, is I do think that LA's Rams offense matches up well. I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game, because I think rushing the football, the inside rush is typically what Minnesota's going to allow you based on how they're playing in the back end. So Kyren Williams, as such an inside rushing style, could provide a ton of success. On top of that, again, I like their weapons better than I like the back end for Minnesota. So I think that they actually match up pretty well in terms of how they like to play offensively, stylistically, with what Minnesota will typically allow you, where they're going to give you room offensively and the underneath passing as well. I think that this becomes a very high-scoring game. I think I just trust Minnesota's offense to bounce back in a game like this. But if it's the flip side and it does become Rams early by a lot, then I think this could become Rams pretty comfortably. But as long as this thing's tight throughout, I think the Minnesota Vikings find a way to just score more points. So I'm going to have the Vikings move on. This was a weird one because I think it matches up well, like stylistically for the Rams, but I think the Vikings personnel-wise have the pieces to go win this football game, and Harrison Phillips is going to mean a lot against the run. He probably needs to dominate this game. We'll see if that happens, but right now, I'm going to roll with the Vikings to win this one. I feel pretty confident in that, so we'll see how that shakes out. So that is my wild card picks. As you can see now on the screen, this is how the bracket would shake out. We'd have Lions Commanders in their first matchup. I'd be fired up for that one. Broncos Kansas City, upset alert again. I think so. And then Ravens Texans, a rematch of last year. So some really cool matchups in that divisional round if that's how this thing shook out. So that's where I'm at. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to see a divisional round prediction video when that time comes, let me know. And I'll see y'all then. Thank you, Pride, for watching, and I'm out.